on your side of the fence with the circus performers, when you're talking to them about being able to be in the moment, so you mentioned a little bit around being adaptable. You also mentioned their ability to have the emotion and not try and run away from it, maybe deal with it or just channel it. When you're trying to help them sit there, how much does authenticity come into that for them? Like their ability to not try and play a certain role or be a certain person they're expected to be.
It's quite ironic, right? Because, okay, funny story. I guess this is part of what we're doing now. You know, when I meet them in the afternoon, they are what I will call normal person. Like they're not makeup or anything. They don't have their costume. So one of the last show I did, we had a really good conversation with one of the artists during the afternoon. That was really cool. And at night, he is dressed up in a frog. So literally his whole face is green with those yellow eyes and those little dots. And he is wearing this thing that prevent me from seeing his hair. And then he's talking to me, but I should have recognized the voice. But you know, it's a really big crew. There's 100 people on that crew, and I meet a lot of people. And then I'm like, oh, that's really cool. Where are you from? And then he looked at me and he was like, what do you mean? We talked like for 30 minutes this afternoon. I told you that. And I was like, oh my God, I'm so sorry. I just did not recognize you, right? And then he started laughing and he was like, in any other circumstances, I would have been a little offended, but now I kind of understand. So all this to say that it's ironic because none of those artists are playing their own self when they step on stage. They are always costume and always like playing a character that doesn't belong to who they are necessarily. Yet they will always tell me that authenticity and stepping on stage with your true self is one of the most important things to connect with the audience. Again, I will come back on with clowns, but I had maybe one of the most amazing discussion with a clown recently. And for him, there's kind of this triangle, which is like one side of the triangle, it's him, like the real him in real life. Then there's his clown. And then there's kind of this other character that lie in between. And this is the connection with the audience. And like artists, this is what I love working with artists. They need to think about those things. They need to dig deeper into themselves and figure out a way to bring their true self on stage. So like you were just talking, your example about a coach that is authentic will catch attention longer and maybe like the attention because you won't say, is he like fooling me or anything like that? Well, with artists, it's super important that the second they step on stage, they need to have all the eyes on them. And to do this, there's no other choice than finding your true self and be authentic to yourself. And that's why it was really good when they were coming to Montreal, all of them before to go on like a show, because it allowed the professional at circus to develop this capacity in them. Not that they cannot do it by experience, but for sure it's maybe better if you have a little bit of support before to step on stage. And you need to be more naked than you think to step on stage and really connect with the audience. And this is what makes the difference between the best artists and those that are performers, I will say. Like there's a difference and you can see it on stage.
Yeah, I would say that my karaoke skills would show that out. Real performers are able to do it. I just pretend when I'm doing that. I'm interested, Stubby, that because a lot of the population that you work with around, you now consult as a coach development expert in many sports, but often the sporting environment is not one where people are prone to think and dig deeper about themselves, right? Like Vero, you said you're blessed to work with performers who almost have a need, a want to explore themselves more and find that expression. And, you know, that triangle is a great metaphor, a great model. I'm hard pressed to think of maybe 25% of the athletes or coaches that I might have worked with in sport who would be even close to doing that themselves, let alone willing for me to push them there. How do you find that?
So important. They should all do this, but that's not the conversation.
Should is a great word. Stubby, what's your experience with that in pro sport?
Yeah, no, I totally agree. It's funny, isn't it? Like we have the performers that Vero is talking about, the artists who are really looking for themselves so that they can be their character, yet athletes and coaches to a certain extent are trying to create a character so they can be someone that they're not. So it's thinking on its head in many ways, and you see that. And I think the best ones, those that are experienced and have had some success and have built expertise over time, they are themselves, the Belichicks, the Popoviches, and certainly in that part of the world. And then you look down in our part of the world, the people that like Craig Bellamy and Wayne Bennett, even though they're very different personalities, they know who they are and they're able to be themselves 100% of the time. And that's what it takes. So I was listening to Vero, and when you pose that question, Paddy, I think it's all about believability, right? So the players have a BS filter. They know if the coach is talking rubbish and not being who they are.
They've got the best nose for bullshit in the business.
Exactly. So, the performers, the people they're trying to convince are the audience. So they have to be true right from the start, because if the audience doesn't believe it, you're not selling the show. Whereas in our sporting environments, I think the coach needs to be, and belief is about that trust piece, right? So if we talk about, Covey's model of trust, it's about character and competence, and they need to show they know what they're on, they know their stuff, but they are also genuine and authentic in the way that they build that belief in others. So I think those two pieces are really critical. So the coaches that create an environment of trust really early are the ones that can start to build something special. And players, I guess, are part of that process. So those that are able to let their guard down and be themselves are certainly going to have so much more growth possible, whether it be on the field, but certainly off the field, and being able to lead and to do other things post their sporting careers.
Yeah. I'm caught in, we've talked ourselves into a twist here. Let me reflect two things that all of us have said that don't seem to gel at first glance. So we're all agreeing that toughness is in significant ways about adaptability, your ability to deal with shit, change, adapt, move, shift, whatever. And then at the same time, we're saying, it's really tough as a leader to just be yourself. Don't change. Right? So we're saying toughness is being able to change, and toughness is being able to not change. Either of you can take this one. How do you solve that? Like, tell me how that's wrong.
I see a difference between being and doing. I think you need to be authentic in who you are, so the way you're being, and you need to be adaptable in what you're doing, if that makes any sense. So I think there's just a big difference here in the how and the what, if you want. Like, how you are and you project yourself is different than what you will do, and the what needs to be adaptable. The how and your true self, the way you are, the being, that's on you, and that can be quite stable if it's you and if it's who you are. It's my take on this, but maybe
I like the quick. It sounds like you've said that before, but I don't know if we've had that discussion. But being able to say the difference between between being and doing. I like that simple delineation. Stubby, you got anything to add there?
I think that's a really good way of putting it. Yeah. It's about the response, right? So you still got to be you, but respond in a way which is trying to solve the problem in being flexible in what that solution might look like.
Yeah, right. So it's flexible about solutions.
Correct.
Right.
It's not being fixed on this is the outcome because this is what we've always done. No. I've actually got to be me here and take in all the stimulus, but then respond in a way which is going to benefit the situation.
Right. Or as, this is going to disappoint fans of Star Wars and The Mandalorian, but saying this is the way every time is not always the right way. Perhaps adaptability could help him sometimes. Sorry if you're going to put your hand up there, Vera. You don't like my analogy from Star Wars, or?
I was just going to say that actually Stubby and I kind of test this quite often with coaches. So we've developed this like movement improvisation, and maybe Stubby, you want to talk a little bit more about why we brought coaches to do this, but this is kind of a lab. I won't say the whole word because it won't sound super well.
A laboratory?
Yeah, this word won't make it.
Say it in your accent.
Laboratoire.
Well, yeah, but there you go. That's much better than my stupid accent. Go ahead.
All the words that are quite similar, it's the toughest to pronounce, whatever. So we've tested this approach where we totally ask coaches to be fully vulnerable in activities that are just totally silly. I use movement a lot to make people move in crazy ways.
And I just want to catch there. You said a word that with the accent people may not have heard. You want people to be fully vulnerable. right?
Yeah.
That's what you were saying? Yeah.
Yeah. Sorry if that was not clear. But yeah, exactly. And we've came up with this project, and now it's been a few times that we are doing it. And I think the doing and the being is really interesting in this, because the doing, we ask them to be super adaptable. So they move in different situations that like are a little childish, or like going back to really silly type of activity. But if they are not true to themselves, they have a lot of trouble going through the activity, and they feel so uncomfortable until the moment, which is my favorite moment in life, actually, and I'm not joking, when a person decides to let go and to just be who they are. Stop caring about what others think. Stop caring about, am I looking okay or not? Am I doing okay or not? It's like not important in those activities. They just need to be who they are and to do spontaneously whatever they are asked for. And maybe Stubb, you can jump in there, because you've been a big witness of those activities, and you've seen coaches evolve, I would say, from it, not necessarily because of it, but.
Well, I'll probably back the truck up a bit, Patty, and tell a little bit of the story of how it evolved. I think that's really important because it's definitely about performing under pressure, right? And that's what all your listeners are having to do. And Vero and I were lucky enough to cross paths.
Patty, you actually introduced us to each other. So we crossed paths because of you.
I did something right. In the last 10 years, I've done at least one thing right.
Yeah. So, I mean, I was fascinated by the way that Red Bull, with their athletes, provided environments where they were trying to take them totally out of the domains that they were experts in and put them in other situations which were going to either scare the shit out of them or actually force them into uncomfortable situations where they had to respond. And I wasn't as interested in that from a athlete perspective or a performer or an operator perspective, but certainly from the instructor. How do we create that for them? Because for me, it's all about modeling. It's about modeling. And if we want our athletes to perform under pressure, then we need to show that we can do that ourselves as coaches and instructors. So the opportunity presented, and I remember calling Vera when she was doing a postdoc, I think, at Florida State University, and saying, do you want to come to India? And she's probably thinking, what is this guy from Australia who I don't even know what cricket is? And
that's the thing. Do you want to come to India to work with cricket coaches? I'm like, what? I don't even know what cricket is, actually.
So it was a bit of a test case, let's say, a pilot. I had a captive audience in 30 male Indian coaches, and it was a chance for us to try some of this stuff out, and literally blew them away, but also well and truly, I was confident that we, having had the conversations we'd had about the research and the intention that Vero was going to present with the movement improvisation activities, that we'd have a really good success, but it certainly exceeded all those expectations. And then as a result, we've not only built it into all of the learning programs when I have had cricket coaches as a cohort and mixed sport coaches that come to the US, and we immerse ourselves in that Cirque du Soleil environment for a day or so. But also Vero's been to Australia now on a number of occasions, and we've done tours around creativity and building that capacity for players and coaches alike. So I think that's kind of the connection, and probably what will create a little bit of interest with your listeners.